Hey guys, I'm Bex.
And I'm Grace.
And we're the Packer Sisters.
Tune in each week for some really nifty stuff.
Yeah, that's close enough. Hello, beautiful people. If you couldn't tell, Grace sounds kind of different today.
Yeah, I'm not Grace.
Yeah, I bet you already knew that. But Grace is actually taking a small break this week to spend time with her husband. And so instead, we're each going to have an episode with our husbands. So today, of course, is Zach and I.
Hello.
And I think next week will be Grace and Peter. And we're just going to talk about some different topics that kind of relate to us. So yeah, today's guest is Zach. So you can officially say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. I'm Zach. I'm Bex's husband, and I'm really excited to do one of these with her because ever since she started doing it, I've been like, can I get in on that? You want to just do like one little episode with you?
Yeah, I thought it'd be fun to have him on the show. And just to get us started, of course, I have some quirky questions for Zach. Here's my first quirky question. Is if you were a squirrel, what would your favorite activity be?
Definitely climbing.
Just climbing trees?
Yeah. Wouldn't climbing trees with like significant ease and just scurrying around be fun? You can't do that as a human.
That's a good point. Yeah.
You can eat a nut as a human. There's nothing fun about that. That's not special. Climbing, can't do that.
That's a good point. I think I'd agree with that. Climbing, grooming my fluffy tail.
Well, that's no different than grooming your hair.
But you have a tail.
Yeah, I guess it's true. You have a tail.
What's your favorite food?
Well, I know you know this, but mine's pizza.
Yes. And I asked this question because this is a big part of Zach. He has always loved pizza.
It's part of my identity.
It's in his DNA. It's in his bloodstream. I think he's probably 1/3 pizza at this point.
Maybe even higher.
Maybe half pizza. So it's a big part of you.
Like 3/8 pizza.
Yeah, maybe more than that. Who knows? But if you didn't know, because I'm kind of going to segue us into today's topic, Zach and I both worked at escape room jobs in the past.
Yeah.
And I think we've completed together like around 20 rooms or so.
I've lost count at this point.
So obviously we're going to be talking about escape rooms today, if you couldn't tell. So I have come up with a couple questions and just ideas to share with everybody and just discuss with Zach, because I know that you probably know a lot about these as well. So first of all, what is an escape room? So like, how would you describe it, Zach?
It is usually a themed room that has a series of puzzles that you have to solve in an order.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the room will also have a narrative or like a story that you get to find out as you unlock the puzzles. And once you complete all of the puzzles, you win, and you have to do it within an hour's time.
Yeah, typically it's an hour, though I have heard there are some rooms that do like 90 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So,
like
just
longs.
30 extra minutes. So just kind of from my experience, I would say like you could kind of compare an escape room to bowling or roller skating is what I typically tell people, because like you're paying for an experience, basically. Like you're paying for an hour to play. And just know too, like you need to prepare your brains a bit more than you would for like bowling because it's a puzzle like game. There's going to be puzzles, clues, things that you have to figure out while you're in there. So imagine you're in the game of Clue and you're a detective. That's kind of what it is. But one misconception I know people have is they get scared when we tell them, oh, you'll be locked in a room for an hour. And I know personally for us, we've only played at one place that actually locked you in the room. The rest of them don't.
Weird.
Yeah, that place was kind of weird. But the rest of escape rooms we've played at don't. They'll just close the door and say if you need out, you can just
walk out whenever you need to.
Yeah, so don't be nervous because we want to make sure you have a good experience, like the hosts do. So they want you to have fun and not be afraid. But you can always call and ask before you play at an escape room just to see what their guidelines are and stuff, like if they'll lock you in or not, or if there's anything scary. It's always good to ask
Correct.
ahead. I kind of wanted to share a brief history of escape rooms because I thought it was really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel free to read some of these as well, Zach.
The first in-person escape room was made in Kyoto, Japan, 2007.
Yeah.
And the idea came from a video game. It was like that old. There's like that old like elevator escape thing, or was that like was that derivative of the original one? Because I remember like a really, really, really old like Flash game.
There was one apparently made in like the 90s, I think.
Oh, okay.
That was considered a real escape game, and then somebody was like, "Oh, that's a great idea. What if we did that in person?" And so they made that room in Kyoto, Japan. And 2007 is, I would think, still relatively new. I mean, that's not that old.
It feels old in my mind. Like if I think back to where I was in 2007, it feels like an entirely different lifetime.
Wow.
But like as a total amount of years, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. It's only 13 years.
We were really young. Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's because we still are little babies.
And also, after the game was kind of made in Kyoto, Japan, it spread through Europe really quickly. It became super popular. And after that, it came to North America, which is, how we've all played and known about it. But the first escape room in America was in San Francisco, California. That doesn't really surprise me, just because, I don't know, California's got a lot going on. And I know that they're all about filming and stuff, production value and stuff. That doesn't surprise me. And total, there's about 2,300 escape room companies in the US today.
I wonder how many rooms that comes out to then.
I mean, let's think. Most companies we've played at have maybe like 5 rooms. I think we have escaped every room we've played, right?
We have not failed yet. No, the only one that I ever did not escape within 1 hour was the training room that I did when I first got hired on at the one that we worked at.
Oh, I mean, me too, though. Like, that was training.
It took 65 minutes.
Yeah.
With everybody in there. Yeah. That's the only time, because at first I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of hard. I can see how like you wouldn't get out of this.
Yeah.
And then ever since then, we put together like that little dream team of people.
Yeah, we have a team. It's Zach, me, and 2 of our friends.
Yeah, and we smash like every single one.
Yeah, we each have different skill sets, and it just worked really well. But yeah, getting a team together to play rooms is not a bad idea. And then you each kind of take a role in a way, like organize yourselves. It works pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we haven't been able to play as much as we used to because of the global commotion.
Yes, the commotion in the ocean.
The commotion across all oceans.
Oh my god. I know, we're really going to have to think here because you really have to remember what happened when you worked at these escape rooms. So
dig into my brain.
Yeah, dig into your past, Zach. What's the funniest thing that happened while you were working at the escape room that you were working at?
I need to think about this for a second. Do you have a story that you can tell while
I do have a story. So you weren't there at the time, but I had a group of teens and they were about to play our hardest room there. They were like, please let us know when it's 420. This is really important to us. And I was just smiling because 420, like the memes going around, it was kind of the big thing. So I was just like, sure, whatever. So they were playing the game, and at that place we communicated with our groups with like walkie-talkies to talk back and forth. So when it hit 420, I blared a horn sound on my cell
An
phone.
air horn.
Yeah, through the walkie-talkie, and I screamed, "It's 420!" And then they all started dancing and screaming around the room. They're like, "Yeah, 420!" And it was just really funny. I loved that group. It was a good time, and they escaped.
The funniest thing that I think ever happened in an escape room, period, was when we went to do that kind of jungle themed one. And the guy that like really, really, really sold it on the acting just ran down the stairs.
Oh, he just jumped. He leapt down the stairs.
we when introduced to this room, he like ran down the stair. Okay, so we're outside waiting to go into this room. We show up early like you're supposed to, and we assume that we need to go into the building and wait in like a waiting room. But instead, we ring like this little doorbell outside, and this dude dressed in full safari garb just bounds down the staircase that we can see through a window, cracks open the door just a little bit, and in like a really thick Aussie accent tells us that he's just gonna need a couple of minutes and slams the door and then runs back up. And we're all just dumbstruck. We have no idea what's going on. And then 5 minutes later, he comes back down. He's like, "All right, we need to get upstairs. Hurry!" And like then we all just run upstairs, and he just frantically is like it's the last thing we are going to be able to do before we die, like explaining to us what we need to do in order to like save this artifact or whatever it was.
Yeah,
I don't remember the
I
storyline.
don't either.
It was so funny
But
though.
it was a fun room because the host made it really fun for us.
Yeah. The end of that too, which really got me, like just myself, was that at the end when he was like, "So how did we do?" Like the accent was gone.
Yeah,
Like,
he's
I
just
was
like,
like,
"Yeah, tell me
like
how
he
you
just
like the room."
he
And
just
I'm like,
turned it
"What?
off immediately.
You're not Australian?"
Yeah, I really thought he was. It was a good accent.
He was very good at that. Yeah, I
Well,
remember.
wasn't he actually Australian, but like a thin accent?
I think
And
he
just
might.
they just
I
played it
don't
up.
want to just assume though because I have no idea. Which room has been your favorite that we've played? And I'll answer while he's looking. So first of all, it's really hard for me to make this choice, but I'm making my decision, Zach, based on 3 categories. 1 is the production value, 2 is the playability, and 3 are the puzzles. Like for example, Zach and I have played several rooms that looked really nice, but the puzzles really sucked. So I wouldn't really consider those to be a good escape room. So one room that I think actually meets all the criteria that I mentioned is a room called Film Noir, and it's in Portland area. But not only does the set look cool, they kind of have it in black and white to fit the noir theme, but the storyline also had a nice flow to it. You were almost literally in a clue game, like you had to solve the person, place, and thing, to figure out who murdered this guy. And the puzzles were super unique, and they were also a good amount of a challenge because some rooms have a ton of puzzles that are super easy, but I know this room was just like perfect in the amount of hardness and difficulty. So, but what would you say based on that?
I would have to agree that Film Noir was a really, really good one.
It was
and it
so
would definitely
good.
be in like my top 3.
Yeah.
And then the other 2
Yeah.
that I would say that I really like is the OG. Can I say the name of it? Is without the company.
Yeah.
The Ritual Room.
Oh, I loved the
That
Ritual
was
Room.
that one. All of the puzzles on point. That was one of the earlier ones that we did.
That was one of the.
It's like we started really strong with the quality. That one, the puzzles were very unique.
Oh,
they weren't
so
necessarily like a good puzzle isn't a good just because it's hard. It's good because it's like it's not just like a cookie cutter puzzle that you can
creative.
Yeah, it's not just like everybody using the same type of like cipher that you can buy from Party City and just putting it in different places. It's like they actually came up with very unique puzzles, and I don't want to give too much away.
Oh yeah, because they had my favorite puzzle in that room, and
Yeah,
I was so proud because I solved that one. I was like, yes, I figured it out.
the time of day puzzle.
Yeah, but don't give too much away.
Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but I also like the blood one that
Oh
Jacob
yeah,
figured
yeah.
out.
There's a lot of blood in this. Not real blood.
Yeah, it's all
blood.
it's I mean, it's called the ritual room. It's a theme of like you're trying to stop a cult.
Yeah.
It's kind of the
Well, you're trying to find an artifact.
yeah, but ultimately the goal is to like stop the cult's
Yeah, and
plans.
I remember the girl that, and I remember her name too. I hope that's not creepy. But the girl that hosted us in that room was a really good actress.
Oh yeah, she was really good too.
And so yeah, she really put on a show. So.
And the other one that would be in my top 3, which I'm not sure which one would be higher or lower, in addition to that, is the amnesia room that I played.
Was that the one where I worked at the most recently?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was so well put together.
I love the aesthetic of that room. I
So,
don't know what it is about that room, but like the theme is basically you are locked in some type of laboratory, quote unquote, locked, and you have forgotten why you're here and what you're doing, and all of the puzzles unlock the story as to why you're here and what you're doing.
yeah.
And it's just like really kind of like I don't know, like it's kind of creepy sci-fi aesthetics of like all the walls and the furniture and the ceiling and the floor is just like white, like mirror polished white stuff, and like hard metal and plastic and like sharp angles. It's like a really the whole room's aesthetic really like
It's
works really well. You can tell that they put a lot of thought into the design of the room.
Yeah, I loved that room as well.
It's not even that big of a room, but
no, it's made for 4 people or less.
Yeah, it's a very small room, but a lot of times really small rooms can feel crowded. And that's not saying that small rooms are bad, but this one didn't feel like it was too small, or it didn't feel like it didn't have enough to do in it.
It was good for 4 people.
It was spread out very well.
Yeah.
And it didn't feel like the puzzles were just kind of shoved into the space that was left over. Everything that was there looked like it was there for a reason.
Yeah, they did. I loved that room so much. Kind of segueing, because the thing I have to say next to has to do with that room. What's your favorite escape room moment? And it can either be you like cluing a room or actually playing one. Because my favorite actually has to do with that amnesia room. Because I didn't play that room with Zach, actually. That was like one of the rooms that I actually worked for the company that had that room. So I had to train by playing the room. Usually I would get to play with a group of people, but it was so last minute that they actually made me play the room by myself. And I remember my bosses and coworker, they'd been telling me how hard it is, and I was just getting really nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna throw me in this room by myself because everyone else had done it by that point. I was the only one who hadn't, and I was just like, well, I guess I'll just play and see how far I can get, but I was prepared to be stuck in there for an hour. So I went in and played, and I think I ended up actually solving it by myself with like, I think it was 40 minutes left, or maybe like 35 minutes left on the clock.
Way too fast.
Yeah, and I did it so fast that afterwards, like my bosses came up to me and they're like, "You're crazy. Like, I don't know how you did that."
Go home with all that energy. Where's that coming from?
They're like, "You should go play escape rooms by yourself more often." And I was like, "Oh, I guess that was kind of fun." I realized that day that I kind of enjoyed doing it by myself, even though the whole reason is to kind of do it with a group.
Mm-hmm.
That was my favorite moment. Made me feel really proud.
I just already described one of my favorite moments with that Australian guy.
Yeah.
But another one that also has to do with that amnesia room, while we as a group played it, not you.
Yeah, I wasn't there.
But was when our friend accidentally solved like a directional lock puzzle. So
Oh my
there
god.
is a type of lock in that's very common in escape rooms called a
Yeah.
directional lock. It has a disc on the front of a normal style lock, and you have to push it either up, down, left, or right in the correct sequence to open the lock instead of putting in like a number or a word or a key. There was some clues being played out over like an audio clue that was for a completely different puzzle, but for some reason our friend thought that was meant for the directional lock puzzle, right? And he misheard the audio cues and accidentally, I think, we still don't know exactly what happened, but he basically unlocked an end game lock, like one of like the last three puzzles within like the first 3 minutes of getting into the room by pure accident. I still don't know how he did that. He just like put in a combination that he thought he was hearing, and then it just opened. I remember the our friend, the cluer person, coming in afterwards and being like, "How did
Yeah.
you?
She
How did you do
yeah,
that?"
the host of the room, we were good friends when we worked there, and she was just like, "Wow, I'm kind of mad that
Yeah,
they got out so fast."
because it was more like he just did it, and he was like, "Oh, I guess that must have been right." That was
Mhm.
easy.
It was just really cool because I got to sort of watch them play as well
Oh, yeah,
while I
did
was
you sit
there.
back by the monitor?
Yeah, I
And
got to see
you
a
got to
little.
watch us do everything wrong. You're sitting back there with your 20-minute time.
Well, when you got
Just like
out
pop,
so
pop.
fast, I was just like, "Whoa, geez, you
You were
guys!"
still faster than us by yourself though.
By like what, 2 minutes? It wasn't that much.
Still beat us though.
Well, part of it too, and this has a lot to do with just like skills that you learn when you play escape rooms. As you play rooms with a certain company, you get to know the puzzle master better.
They have shticks.
Yeah, they have certain ways they
Different
like to do
companies.
things. And so I've played all the rooms for the company I worked for, and that was a lot of rooms. Like all combined, I think this guy had made almost 10 rooms.
Yeah, it
So
was one of the
when,
companies that had a lot more than most.
yeah, because they had 2 locations. And so when I played this room, it was one of the last rooms they had built. So I already knew what the puzzle
I knew all of
master.
the old tricks.
Yes, I did though. So I was like, oh, he wouldn't do that. I was in the room and I remember overthinking a little. I'm like, oh no, like that's not his style. He
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want me to overthink. And I know that because in previous rooms, it's never been that way.
Right.
And so to me, I'm like, oh, this is what he likes. He likes word puzzles, he likes picture puzzles, and all these different kinds. And so I just thought about it. And I'm like, yeah, the guy that designs the room would do it this way. And then I would do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a skill you learn. So if you find a really good escape room somewhere and you start playing a lot of their rooms, you'll kind of start catching on and getting better. Hopefully, you just have to remember the little ticks of the room. So, just a couple tips, I guess, for playing escape rooms, ones from our experience at least, is first of all, be prepared to think outside the box.
I'm original. But yes,
I
it's
know.
very true.
It's very cliche, but when you step in a room and let's say you see a puzzle in front of you, like it might not fit together the way that you're hoping it will. And you have to think, oh, what if I turn the pieces upside down? Not just put the puzzle together, but think about other ways you can do that puzzle.
I think one of the biggest things that once you figure it out, it makes escape rooms easier is balancing thinking outside the box and then also not overcomplicating things.
Yeah, don't overthink.
So many times when I worked at escape rooms, and like we can hear and see usually, like we have video and audio feed when we sit in our little monitoring room.
We're watching you.
And I would hear these people come up with these ideas, which aren't terrible ideas.
Yeah, they're really smart.
But the thing is that they're so complicated
Yeah.
that it would just waste their time to actually try to
Oh,
do it. And
mhm,
that happens more than anything else, I would say. Is
mhm.
it's not people just not understanding how to find or solve a puzzle. Like very rarely is that the reason people get stuck. It's because people get get stuck down a path that,
It's just wrong.
yeah, it's drawn, like, it's not a bad idea for a puzzle. It's just that puzzle is way too complicated. Like for example, there might be, like, let's say there's a picture on a wall, and you have a piece of paper, and then you also have like some physical items that you need to match together. You match the physical items together in like a puzzle, like an actual normal puzzle, and then like there's like a decoder thing on the piece of paper, and then it changes what the puzzle looks like or what it says to something on the wall, and
Yeah.
then that will get you the code to open the box.
Mhm.
That is something that I would say is fairly typical. A lot of higher end puzzles in harder rooms will use like 3 or 4 different items for one code.
But there's usually some tell of how they match.
Yes, that
Like a
they
picture, oh, like you use the compass with what's on the wall because
yeah,
there's a compass
they
on the wall.
usually it's pretty, I would say for the most part, usually it's pretty clear what items go together. They usually try to make
Yes.
that part fairly clear. Of course, there's been times that I have completely missed things that go together for silly reasons, but for the
Yeah.
most part, they do a good job of,
Yeah.
well, good escape rooms. They
Yes.
do a good job of letting you know what clues you're supposed to use,
Mhm.
and it's just a matter of like putting them in the right order.
Yeah.
Or like that one room that had like a wallpaper that was all math equations and stuff like that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
people were looking for like specific numbers all throughout the wallpaper in the math equations. And not that that's a dumb idea, but it's like if you look at the big picture, having somebody look for one number on this whole wallpaper would be, in my opinion, a bad puzzle because it would be such a time sink.
Yeah, it depends because something like that can be considered a bad puzzle. Like we played a room where literally we couldn't get the right amount into like a jar that we'd gotten. And apparently most groups that play that room cannot get it. Like I've heard groups complain about that puzzle
Mm-hmm.
when they had came into my escape room I worked at.
I
And
know which one you're talking about.
yeah, you know exactly. And that's a bad puzzle. Like that's something that needs to be changed because if it's not successful at least maybe like 60% of the
That's the
time.
other thing. You want people to get your puzzles. If
Yes.
if an escape room has a puzzle that has like higher than, like, I would say like a 60% fail rate, then like that's a bad puzzle. You don't want it to be, you want people to succeed
Yeah.
at the room. You don't want to stump people. You want to make it hard for them to figure out, but you don't want to stump people.
Yeah, unless you make a room that's like the impossible
Of course,
room.
unless
But
unless you're playing for, like, if you want to make a like a really hardcore room, then maybe stuff like that's okay. But for like the general consumer, you're not going to
yeah.
want them to get
Well,
frustrated.
like a lot of our customers were also like kids and teenagers. So you want it to be like maybe a 10-year-old can do it if they
That
think
was
really hard.
that was another thing that was unique about where we worked,
Yeah.
is a lot of escape rooms will put an age limit.
Yeah,
Like,
there's usually like 16 or older, or if you're younger, there has to be a parent with
yeah,
you.
yeah, like there has to be a parent. Like when you're going to the movies, kind of a thing. Like, of course, it's not legally enforced. It's just heavily recommended that you have a parent with you if you're like younger than 16. And the one that we worked at did not have no such recommendations. And so very often we would get huge birthday
Like eight
parties
year
of
olds.
8 year
We'd
olds
have
or
like,
10-year olds. And it was so,
well, we became babysitters
it was,
basically.
for lack of a better word, it was just awful.
It was. It
I mean, nothing
was.
against 8-year olds or 10-year olds or anything like that,
No,
but
but
trying to get like 8, 10-year olds to solve a bunch of puzzles in
uh,
order,
they don't have a
they're
span to
not
pay
going to be able to
attention to
do it.
that.
It's
Yeah.
like, it doesn't matter how intelligent your child is, man. It's about getting 8, 10-year olds in the same room and them not being able to focus about one thing. Like, all they want to do is joke.
And
They
have
want to
fun.
meme about and have fun, and they do have a great time, but they're not going to get out of the room.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever had a group of kids escape unless there
No.
was parents with them. Like, I've had groups of like families come in and they have a blast as long as they're not angry at each other.
Yeah.
Because that was the other thing. One of the worst experiences I had in an escape room, being the host of the room, is I had a couple. It was a couple's room, and so they had booked it. They came in to
Oh,
play,
right, yeah.
and the wife was yelling at her husband the whole time, telling him how wrong he was. And I was just in shock. And you'd be surprised how often that happens in escape rooms. Like, oh my gosh, it's just so
It
bad.
was at least once a day.
Yeah, we'd
that
get a couple.
somebody would get upset with their room counterpart.
Yeah.
It was
really
almost
sad.
always relatives, though.
Yes.
Like, if it was friends going and doing stuff together, it was always cordial and fun.
Yes.
But if it was like a family,
yeah.
like whether it was like the spouses getting
the
angsty at
kid.
each other, or like the kids fighting with a parent,
Yeah.
or like a sibling squabble, people doing drunk. People
drunk
playing
people.
escape rooms drunk. Drunk people.
People love to be drunk
Now,
and
here's the
play
thing.
escape rooms.
I am a person that enjoys a good evening yeet in the drinks, I guess you could say. But I don't think I would ever enjoy doing an escape room drunk,
Well, like
because every
money
time I have seen a group of drunkos, a group of buds coming in after hitting up the bar, it does not go well. They get frustrated because they can't, you can't think it as well or as fast. And yes, you're thinking it's going to be a rough, rousing old time, but like, you get in there and you realize that you can't figure it out because your brain's not wanting to do that while you're drunk. Your brain doesn't want to think critically. And so, for anybody that is listening that wants to do an escape room, and also enjoys drinking, I will go ahead and say you won't like them combined. Even if you like them one and the other, it's a time where adding two things together does not make it better. In fact, I would say it would make it worse. So do escape rooms sober, because it also, the people that work there don't want to deal with drunk people.
Yeah, the only good part about the drunk groups is they'll usually tip you really well.
That is true. You will get mad tips.
Like, usually there's one person that's the designated driver of the group, and they'll feel so bad that you have to put up with all the drunk people. And then they'll be like, here's a $20 tip for dealing with us.
Or in the case of a couple of escape rooms that are right next to a bar, they all just wander over.
Yeah, they'll go to the bar.
Play the escape room, fail miserably, and then tip like way too much money, because you know how drunk people can get with throwing out money sometimes. Yeah. Just the inhibitions and the thought of spending money. There was that one time that group of drunk people just came in and smashed the room.
Oh, like ruined it?
No, like they beat it like really quickly.
Like they were good. I guess some other tips I might throw out there for people that want to play a room is don't be afraid to use hints.
Oh, yes.
Because on the host's end, we get really annoyed when there's a group that comes in. They're like, we're not going to use any hints. We're so smart. We're so amazing. We're going to get out with any hints. And okay,
good luck with that.
Well, sometimes groups do.
Sometimes they do it.
But sometimes you're halfway through the room and you only have like 10 minutes left, and they are refusing to use a hint, and then they're getting frustrated because they're like, oh, we're not going to win. I'm so mad now. And I'm just like, you should just use a hint so you can get farther. Like, so you can actually enjoy the game.
We use at least one or two hints every game for the most part when we play. And basically what you want to do, if you're playing it for casual fun, you're not like being super competitive with it or anything like that, and you are open to using hints. Well, in the first part, I think you should be open to using hints no matter what, unless it's like your goal to just like, we're not going to use hints.
Yeah, like, some groups do that, but most of the time when they come in and they say, we don't get any hints, you're like, okay, this is going to go bad.
And most of the time it does. Most of the time they don't get very far.
Yeah.
Because just the nature of escape rooms is each group is going to get hung up on at least a couple of puzzles. Like they're just not going to get it. And it's going to be a different puzzle for different groups, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just how it is for the most part. And sometimes there's like one particularly hard puzzle that a lot of people need a hint on.
Yeah.
But it's like every room has at least that one puzzle that just stumps the majority of people. And that's what the hints are for. It's
They
so
want
you
you
can
to.
keep playing the game and having fun.
Yeah.
They don't want you to get stuck.
It doesn't mean you're stupid.
They want you to have fun.
Yeah.
And I understand the competitive nature of it. But if it is sacrificing your enjoyment of that time, then why not use the hint? Like you're not playing a professional sport. You're not doing like ranked competitive matches in like some online video game.
Yeah. And
you're
like,
just having fun.
That's also one of the big reasons why I think our little escape group has successfully escaped all of our rooms is because we're not afraid to ask for help.
When we get stuck, we are just like, hint. No.
Yeah.
Like as soon as we spend like more than 10 minutes on a problem while making no headway.
We're just like, we need help.
If we're 10 minutes at one spot and we have made no progress in the next 10 minutes.
We need help.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I know our group is really good about that because actually the other 2 members of our group worked at an escape room with us as well. So we were all hosts. Yeah, so we all had that experience and we all knew how frustrating it was when groups just would not use hints. So we told each other, if we play these rooms and we need a hint, we all have to agree because sometimes there's one person that's like, no, I think I'm onto something. And if they are, we'll try and work with that. Otherwise, if everyone's just like, then it's hint time. So like, don't just give in right away, but try and think a little extra on it. Like, do we really need a hint on this? And if someone has an idea, go off of that. But then obviously, if no one has an idea, then maybe you're stumped. So yeah, just don't be afraid to do that. No one's judging you. If you use like 10 hints, no one's gonna care.
If you don't have like a rude host, nobody will judge you.
Yeah, I've had groups come in, first timers, like never played an escape room before. They used like maybe 20 hints, and I don't care. Like it's kind of fun to interact with them too. So I'm like, yeah, like if you want help, like whenever you need it, just ask.
They're the casual gamers coming out to have a good time, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's usually like a family with like grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, and grandkids, you know. And they're like,
and a lot of times those people have the most fun.
They do, and I enjoy those kinds of groups, and it's just fun to watch too. Also, the first thing that I always recommend people do when they play a room is to like search. Just search the room, turn everything over, unless specifically told not to do something. Like some rooms are like, please don't take photos off the wall. Please don't rip the curtains off.
Oh yeah, I mean,
you know,
use some common sense, please.
Within the boundaries of what they tell you, because no room is going to break the rules they created. Okay, no room's going to do that. So if they tell you nothing's hidden under the furniture, nothing's hidden under the furniture.
That's another thing that happens a lot. People just kind of ignore the rules that they set forward for themselves. And they're like, well, what if they're just trying to trick us?
They're just tricking us.
We're trying to help along the process of elimination for you so you don't break our stuff.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep you safe, you know? But this one's a huge one, and it's just kind of a respectful thing to do. If you really enjoyed your game that you played and your host was super awesome, tip them. Please. Most people don't realize you can tip your room host, and you can, and they would love it if you did. Or you can leave them a really nice review on like Yelp or something and use their name. Like ask them what their name was and say, thank you so much. And then go and write your little review on Yelp and say, yeah, so-and-so was our host and they were so awesome. Because you know what? Not only does that help the company, but also that host might get like recognized by their company. I know sometimes they'll get like a little extra at the end of the month, or like they might just be recognized for their hard work, be really proud of them,
Yeah.
you know.
I feel
So,
like
you know.
we have the platforms to give people positive feedback.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should be doing that, not just with escape rooms, but like in a lot of situations.
Even food places.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I feel like review places, review websites and stuff like that oftentimes are just used by people to vent their anger whenever
Yeah,
something
but
bad
your
happens.
anger.
So like, if you had a good time, also leave a review. It's just as important.
Just even if you don't know the name of anyone and liked the company, you can just say, yeah, go here. It was fun. Because like I know I've tried to do this after each escape room we've done, after we've worked there, because we kind of understand more that, you know, it's a big deal when you get recognized. So
Yeah.
after we play rooms, I'll always ask what their name is and leave them a nice review, because I know that that will help them.
It
So,
may seem small, but to the person
yeah.
that clued you, if they actually did a good job, it's a really good thing for them
Yeah,
to get mentioned in a good review.
and then they might remember you next time you come in.
Yeah, like that happened to us a couple of times.
Yes,
it was
they'll
pretty
be
cool.
like, "Oh, I loved you guys. Thanks for the nice review," and then they'll be extra nice to you because they know you really like
Just
them.
be excellent to each other.
Yes, just be nice. Everyone, just be nice to each other.
That's our motion. That's our message for the day. Just be nice.
Just be nice. If you're gonna play an escape room, just be a nice person. That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter if you win or not. You're not stupid if you can't escape. Because you know what? I think there's always a 50-50 chance that you can't get out. Like, the only real reason I think Zach and I and our little group have been so successful
There's
is,
a lot of luck.
well, yeah, I'd say we're all really smart people. Like, we all kind of study different areas and we all have different weaknesses and strengths that work well together. So you really just need to find people that work
pretty
well.
diverse group.
Yeah,
Which
so
is
like
what helps.
you need to find a group as well that you feel good with. Like, if you mess up, you're not gonna like feel bad in front of your group because everyone's gonna mess up.
Or you could just be like Bex and be an absolute mastermind to do everything yourself. That also works.
This talk really makes me want to play an escape room.
I know.
Really bad. Because we haven't played in a long time because of the whole COVID stuff. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll get there soon.
There's gotta still be more in this area. There's a lot here.
Yeah, because as you guys probably know from previous podcasts, we live in the Portlandish area. So
Pacific Northwest.
yeah.
Chair is so creaky. I'm so sorry.
We apologize.
I don't know if you can even hear that, but it keeps creaking really loud.
Yeah, so does mine. Hopefully no one will notice. But yeah, there's a lot of rooms over here. We really want to go up to Seattle because that's where some of the 90-minute
I want to go
rooms
down
are.
to California. Because
California
is the hub for America in escape rooms. So that's where they first showed up in the United States.
Yeah.
So, as we said earlier, tying in the beginning of the show at the end of the show.
Nice job.
It's all coming together.
Oh yeah, it's all
coming together. Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, one thing I've heard, and don't quote me on this, and I know some people might not like that I'm saying this, but the California rooms I've heard have awesome production value. Like, they look like a set for a film, like so perfect, amazing.
Well, it's all those people that went to there to work on movies and didn't get a job, and they're just like, what if I worked in an escape room?
Yeah, a lot of people.
Not that that's bad. There's just a lot of people that go and look for jobs in the film industry, and there's just too many people that can't do it.
Yes.
So they open up an escape room because it's a good alternative.
And that's the thing too. That's why they turn out so good. But the problem then is sometimes the puzzles suffer. Like, if you put too much effort into the looks of a room, the puzzles might kind of suck. And I've heard that that's how a lot of the rooms are down there. Though, you know, you can prove me wrong if you want. Leave a note in the comments if you know a really good room down there that you want to recommend.
There are some. We've seen YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Of really good rooms.
Well, like really probably expensive rooms.
Yeah. Like, they're not bad, but
man.
But you know, like, just quantity. Sometimes the quality is gonna suck. There's a lot of escape rooms in Southern Cal and Northern Cal.
And then
they're not all of them are gonna be good.
Yeah. Well, and kind of the opposite of what I've heard for Seattle is the majority have really good, thoughtful puzzles and not as good production value.
I 100% see that.
But you know, comparatively, I'm sure some of the rooms are beautiful up in Seattle.
It's the Silicon Forest people.
You
They've got all these puzzle intellectual style minds coming out from Microsoft.
Yeah. Definitely.
Microsoft and Boeing and all those
and
Oracle and everybody, they're just like, oh, I can make a puzzle hands down, and they have no idea how to do production.
But you see where I'm going with this. In the North, great puzzles, bad production value. In the South, awesome production value, bad puzzles. Bam, an Oreo, the middle, the white part, Oregon, the perfect little piece of frosting. And if you combine people from California that go north and people from Seattle that go south, you'll find Portland.
It is a good happy medium here for the most part.
Yeah.
Nothing is blown out of the water, and nothing sucks tremendously.
Yeah.
Given that, there are also some that just
yeah, well,
really bad. Don't ever go to a mall escape room.
Don't ever.
You can't see me pointing right now, but I'm pointing right at the computer, and I'm letting everybody know, do not go to a mall escape room. Escape rooms in malls are not a good time.
Well, unless it's like a really ritzy mall. I feel like maybe in like California.
I don't know about that.
I don't know. Viewers, please tell us. Or if you live even in a different state.
I'm not talking about strip malls. I'm talking about like walk-in like malls, like where. Remember when Sears used to exist? The place where Sears was.
But yeah, like viewers, if you're from anywhere else in the world, like just leave us a name and company of an escape room you really liked, because we want to travel and play them at some point.
Alternatively, if you ever played an escape room in a mall and it was good,
and
it was good, tell me which one it is, because I don't believe you.
He does not believe you.
But I want to find out if it's true, because I have never seen a good mall escape room.
Or tell us if you hated an escape room.
Oh, yes.
Because that's always interesting.
Horror stories are always entertaining.
Yes. Or if you've worked at one, I don't know, just let us know.
Oh, yeah. Experiences, bad customers, bad managers, great customers, great managers.
Yeah, we want to hear from you guys.
Maybe you are the manager and you just hate all your underlings.
But hey, thank you guys for listening. I know this is kind of off of the beaten path. I'm thinking.
Join our Patreon. We don't have one.
We don't have one. Yeah, don't listen to Zach. Yeah,
Go find our GoFundMe.
He's new to this.
Damn it, share.
I don't know what Grace and Peter are talking about next week, but I know it will be super interesting. So thanks for listening, everybody, and please tune in to listen to my sis do her thing. Yeah.
Later, boys and girls.
Later.
Thank you for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye-bye.